I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Connors, and as always, for episode, I think this is 79 of the podcast, Christian Buckley. How are you, my man?
Doing all right, Mike. I'm hooded up today. I feel like Palpatine. Feels good.
You feel like Palpatine?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I was feeling a little achy in the shoulder area today, so maybe that's part of it too. Maybe I just need my granddaughter to strike me down and I can take over.
Gotcha.
It's
So
all
you
wash at this point.
Right. So you transitioned from Wookiee, because you're normally, my Chewbacca, my Buryaga or whatever. You transitioned from a Wookiee to decrepit old man, essentially.
Unfortunately, if there was ever a Wookiee that wore a hoodie, then we wouldn't have a problem. But, got a hood up today. I have limited options with Star Wars.
Oh, that's why you said it. See, I can't see you, so I don't know that you have a hood on.
Fair.
That's part of the reason. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, you've been doing anything Star Wars related, man? I know that we're sort of getting to a point where a lot of things are going to be Star Wars centered. So
Yeah, it comes in waves. I don't consider myself a bandwagoner, but I do love Marvel and Star Wars equally. Lately, it's been Marvel season.
Sure.
So I have been preparing myself, though. I've been very much thinking consistently, like every day. It's like, it's almost time for Star Wars again. It's almost time. It's almost time. So
Yeah, it feels like for me the springtime around May 4th, honestly, and the holidays are like a Star Wars time.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I'm excited. We're definitely got some cool Star Wars stuff to talk about in terms of the Bad Batch coming up. But I think we should start off with what we normally start this podcast off with, is from the Jedi Archives. This is a segment where Christian and I both choose a Wikipedia page from the great Star Wars wiki, Wikipedia, and educate each other about a piece of Star Wars lore, whether that be canon, legends, what have you. So Christian, why don't you start this off? What'd you pick today?
So I went with a random page, and I know when we normally go through the random pages, you're like, we refresh a couple times, maybe get one that's substantial. This is not, but I couldn't not talk about this. So,
Sure.
It is from Legends. It is the Skywalker Apartment.
Ooh, can I guess where this is?
Sure.
Is it on Tatooine?
No.
I want to get two guesses. Is it like a high rise on Coruscant?
It is on Coruscant. So this is filed under Legends articles, Coruscant Apartments, which I guess is an entire segment of the Wikipedia archives, but
Sure. Yeah.
so the Skywalker Apartment was an apartment owned and maintained by Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and his wife Mara Jade Skywalker at the time of the Yuuzhan Vong War from 25 ABY to 29 ABY. Their son, Ben, was possibly raised here. So,
Possibly.
yeah,
We don't know.
uh,
That's cool. Are there any photos? Does it look nice? Do they have a good interior decorator?
no pictures, I'd imagine it's maybe like that very hard architecture the Empire has, because that's the history of Mara Jade. Luke comes from Tatooine, not much stuff to design there, very basic neutral colors. But it had two appearances in Legends. The first was the New Jedi Order Agents of Chaos 1 Heroes Trial, and the New Jedi Order Edge of Victory 2 Rebirth, which
Cool.
I assume are maybe comics or short stories, but there's no pictures.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I find it funny just imagining the Skywalker apartment being modeled exactly like Luke Skywalker's childhood Tatooine place with the sand huts and everything, just like on the inside, but it looks really nice from the outside. That's what I imagine it looks like.
Yeah. So
that's a good pick.
Thank you. What do you
So
pick?
I also chose a random page, and this one, like yours, is short, and I thought it was too funny to pass up, so I'm just gonna go with it. So I landed on the Utapau flying squid. get this. The Utapau and flying squid were a species of flying carnivore, I would assume sort of the squid, native to the planet Utapau. Utapau, they were constantly hungry and not picky in what they devoured, making them a threat to anything else airborne. That's all there is about them, and they were first mentioned in Star Wars, absolutely everything you need to know. That's the canon. The Legends is just a little bit longer, but yeah, it doesn't really have that much more information. So there you go. There's a flying squid on Utapau, and it's very hungry.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It feels like, saying that, it feels like something that should be in a video game, you know?
Right.
Like, Battlefront 3, give me an Utapau map, and that thing is just in the background of the map, up in the skies, you know? Like,
well, I mean, what I want to know is why didn't we get that in the prequels, right? We spent some decent time on Utapau in Episode 3. Was the visual effects budget just not, like, what's good?
Yeah, I'm wondering, because, like, am I wrong, or is there some quote about how Obi-Wan's Utapau sequence was cut down? Like, from, like, not, they didn't even, like, do previs for it. Like, it was an early cut, but I think I remember hearing that it was supposed to be longer.
That could be true. I really don't know.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, we all know that Revenge of the Sith was supposed to be, like, 4 hours long, so...
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was supposed to be longer, but I could see this being like in a video game or something, right? Like,
yeah, Fallen Order 2.
Yeah, like Fallen Order 2, like Cal goes to Utapau for some reason. I mean, it could happen,
yeah.
right?
Like, the sequence with the flying squid would be like the wyvern on Kashyyyk at the end of the tree sequence. Definitely,
or just like one of those random bosses that pop up.
Yeah,
or
like
something.
that giant bat thing. On Dathomir.
Or Ogdo Bogdo or whatever his name was. You know, the frog.
Yeah.
Dude, I spent so much time trying to kill that thing. You could just walk past it. Anyway. Video games. But anyways, yeah, that's something that I want to see in future Star Wars canon. I mean, it's canonized, so there's no reason why. Bring back Utapau.
Do it.
So thanks for bringing a pretty good Wikipedia page to our segment, Christian.
You too.
Yeah, I think we should start talking about some of the news. I mean, we have something big to talk about in regards to Knights of the Old Republic later on in the show, and Christian and I are going to be talking later on more about just our experiences playing that game and our thoughts on that, since I don't think we've ever had like a dedicated discussion topic on that game. But starting off with some rumors first. Christian, are we going to get an Old Republic batch of Disney Plus shows with maybe even Keanu Reeves? I've been hearing some rumors online that point to that. What are your thoughts?
So, we'll get to this with our discussion. I feel a certain way towards Revan. I don't think Revan's a bad character or anything. I think Revan potentially could be very boring. And I know the fan casting forever has been Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves' Revan is the thing that I think is boring. I love Keanu Reeves, but it just feels so safe to me. Like, that casting choice. But the idea of an Old Republic show or batch of shows is very cool. So I would love to see that. What are the details here? Yeah,
so on a new installment of the HoloNet Marauder podcast, I'm not familiar, there was I guess Corey Van Dyke of Kessel Run Transmissions was on. We've talked about Kessel Run Transmissions, I think. And he said, quote, "If you're a fan of Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Revan will be coming back into canon very soon in something Disney Plus related. There's going to be a big push for Sith characters post-Mandalorian. That's going to be Disney's big Disney Plus slate, starting with The Acolyte. Obviously, the timeline won't match up, but I know for sure there's concept art out there of Revan in a hologram, which I believe is for Acolyte. It will kind of tease his own series eventually." So that's regarding an Old Republic batch of Disney Plus shows. Obviously, this is still a rumor at this point. Disney hasn't confirmed, but interesting that he's saying that this is going to be something post-Acolyte, that like the Acolyte is going to kick off, because I think previous rumors are that that's going to, if anything was going to have an Old Republic crossover, it's going to be that, because the Acolyte is, I think, confirmed to be taking place in the High Republic era, or at the end of the High Republic era.
Yes, because
So
with the Acolyte stuff, I think you and I talked about this a bit. Like, when it was announced and they said the tail end of the High Republic, I was like, well, if the High Republic ending brings us to where about we start up with the Skywalker saga, I personally, I thought the Acolyte was going to be about Plagueis. Because, Plagueis has a long lifespan, and, it would make sense that this series, maybe he's training his young apprentice and stuff like that, and we see what
Palpatine
happens.
origin story.
Yeah, because that was thrown around a long time ago, I think, when people were talking about the purchase originally. They were like, oh, what if we got, like, some political drama about, like, young Palpatine or something like that, which is not what the Acolyte is going to be. It is about, this Sith presence. I think Acolyte means like an evildoer or something.
No, it means a person assisting the celebrant in a religious service or procession, or an assistant or follower.
Yeah, so maybe it is about, young Palpatine being the assistant to Plagueis, trying to discover eternal life. That would make sense timeline-wise, I think.
It would make sense timeline-wise. And I mean, that's what I was thinking the Acolyte was going to be about, because we had discussed this in the past, Christian. Yeah. And the reason why I said that I think the Acolyte has the most possibility of sort of having overlap with the Old Republic is because of that, Sith history and tradition that I would think the Acolyte would sort of like delve deep into, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily, it's not out of the ordinary, it's not out of the blue for me to think that there's a possibility that the Acolyte will be a sort of jumping off point for Disney to sort of do Old Republic stuff. Now, like, do I think that's a bit of a stretch? Like, maybe, but like, I don't think the Acolyte's going to be about the Old Republic specifically. I think, if anything, like, this is rumoring, it's going to be sort of that jumping off point.
Yeah, and I mean, look at that logo. That's a Sith logo,
True.
like
right?
But,
yeah, I mean, I feel like Acolyte has like a negative connotation.
Yeah,
sometimes.
It definitely does, and like, I do think that you're making really solid points here, because, like, there's the rule of two since Darth Bane, and that was the end of, again, if we stick with the popular mind share, the end of the Old Republic was kind of signaled by Darth Bane destroying the Sith army and creating the rule 2. So,
right, yeah.
If since then, throughout the High Republic, there is the two, there's a master and apprentice, they're always in hiding. I don't know how long Plagueis has been in the background, long enough for Acolyte to pick up and, tell that story probably. Again, speculation. But I do think you're right, where if it is about the rule of two, maybe at the beginning, the first thing we see in the series is like a narration from Plagueis talking to Palpatine about the rule 2 and like showing the Old Republic time period and Darth Bane and like narrating that and why the Sith followed that rule of 2 to set up the show. And throughout the show, if we're learning about the history, if we're trying to discover how to create eternal life, midi-chlorians and all that, like, it would make sense to come across a Sith holocron or a relic where there is notes of Revan or something like that. So I think it's definitely possible, and I agree with the logic you're bringing up here, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all speculation, but it would make a hell of a lot of sense. And, just talking about it in this way definitely gets me excited. I did mention earlier that maybe even Keanu Reeves will be involved in some sort of Old Republic Disney Plus project. A lot of people think that he would be Revan. I think you brought that up, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the rumor is not that he would be playing Revan. It's that he would reportedly be playing a Star Wars character named Sith King Valar in a live-action style animated series. That's the rumor. Now, like, heavy rumor warning on this one. So
that'd be cool. Because see, that's I think an interesting use of Keanu, honestly. Because if it's an animated like series, like look at Katie Sackhoff.
Right.
Katie Sackhoff is an awesome action star that they cast in an animated role brought to live action. That is an interesting way to use Keanu. Maybe it's just because I've seen the fan casting forever of him being Revan, but I think you could give him so much more, because Revan is kind of a blank slate to where I feel like you'd be wasting Keanu if you're just like, he's the badass Jedi guy. It's like, no, make him an interesting character. And playing a Sith King, that's cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, that's the thing. Like Keanu Reeves, like I feel like you'd be doing a disservice to Keanu Reeves by putting him in this character that has already so much expectation and already a set background with the set, characterization, right?
Yes.
You would want to put Keanu Reeves into and have him sort of act on a blank slate. Like you wouldn't want him to like carry the burden of like a video game from 2003. Like
because. Honestly, Mike, I really think when we get Revan, because Revan's a self-insert character, which we'll get to later, I think to like not have those expectations, they have to make Revan a decent amount different from what the expectation is out the gate, so that way the comparisons are not there. And I think because everyone's like, oh, Keanu should of course be Revan, that would lead to the situation you're talking about, so like because so many people think Keanu when they think Revan for a live action, it's like, no, you gotta cast someone who looks super different, like completely opposite of what the fandom probably wants and expects Revan to be, because Revan is a blank slate. And then you have people going and evaluating that new version of Revan for what it is, not like, well, I think it should be like this because it looks like this already and I played him this way, like there's a separation that I think is needed
for sure. I mean, I'm not anti Keanu Reeves being in the Star Wars universe, like let's just get that straight.
Absolutely not.
He rules, and I think he would be great, and honestly there are probably many different roles that he would thrive in. I just don't think, I think Revan, I agree with you, Christian, seems just a bit too obvious, and it just wouldn't be a good fit, I don't think. Well, all that aside, we're definitely going to talk more about Knights of the Old Republic later on in this episode, which I'm looking forward to for sure. We do have some news to get through. First off, when Solo comes up in the news, Christian, I got to talk about it because you and I both are huge on making Solo 2 happen. In fact, I think like May 24th is Make Solo 2 Happen Day or something like that on Twitter. Get ready, because Christian and I, that's our main holiday.
I'm gonna check our calendar and see when we record next month.
Just because, is it on May 24th?
So we record on the 25th, but I think maybe we make that week a solo episode again. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we got to just talk about Solo 2. Maybe we just talk about Solo 2. We'll talk off-pod about this. But anyways, so the composer for Solo, A Star Wars Story, which came out, I think, in 2018, said that he'd do a solo Disney Plus series. So his name's John Powell, if you don't know. Great composer. I actually really love the score to Solo. I think it's like pretty much up there with like some of the best. Definitely not John Williams quality, but like he's definitely got it going. He was on Star Wars Newsnet's podcast, The Resistance broadcast, and he was asked about a possible Solo 2. He said he was only hired for one. There was no real discussion of anything else for him. He said, and then he just kind of he started to talk about how, he started to get more of appreciation for Star Wars as he did Solo 1. Later on in the episode, he actually talks about how Ron Howard, when he was hired to become the director after Lord and Miller were fired, called up Hans Zimmer because he works with him a lot and had to basically like rescind an invitation to Hans Zimmer to score Solo because they had already had John Powell. Anyways, he also said to the Resistance broadcast that the continuation of that he would also just be on board to compose music for a TV show. So I've been saying this. I think we've talked about this, Christian. I don't think we need a Solo 2 movie. I think we just need a Solo Disney Plus series. I think that Solo would have done a lot better if it were released that way, or if they weren't so scared of it. I just feel like they're super scared of it coming out like in 2018. If they just waited a little bit and threw it on Disney Plus, I feel like it would have done a lot better. And I think John Powell even says so in this interview. It's a really interesting interview. Definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a question sometimes of like, oh, would this actor be down? I feel like it's less lately, like the past few years. I feel like there's been less of a separation or maybe a stigma against transitioning from film to TV for Hollywood people, but there is that question sometimes of like, oh, would this actor actually do a TV show though? But I mean, Alden Ehrenreich has done a TV show since this movie. I think that's the main project he's done since then.
What did he do?
I don't know. Remember Brave New World? Maybe we talked about an interview with him. I think.
Okay. All right.
I think that was like an Apple original or something. And then Amelia Clarke was just cast in a Marvel Disney Plus series. So, and Donald Glover, presumably he's involved with the Lando show. Maybe not, but he does do Atlanta. His origins are TV. So, like, I don't know. I'd love to see a solo series. I know you would too. So this would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like obvious asking probably anybody who is involved in a Star Wars project, like, hey, would you want to do this again? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like most people would be like, yeah, I can't believe I was even asked to do it for a first time, So it's not surprising that John Pell said that he'd return. But yeah, just to get on my Solo 2 soapbox for a second, I think that movie would have done a lot better if it were a TV show, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sort of lends itself, I think, really well to that medium, like that type of storytelling, that sort of like vignette storytelling that they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think they should just take another crack at it.
I agree, dude. Oh my god, because I'm just thinking of the logo for what a Solo TV show would look like, man. Like, it just makes so much sense. You have like 10 years of Han to like tell stories with before A New Hope, basically.
Yeah.
So like, do that. Just do a series about it. Do like 4 seasons of a Solo show. Do your whole Star Wars underworld thing through this. It would make it makes too much sense. Just do it, please.
Yeah, and you already have a confirmed like good Han Solo.
Yeah.
Like that's half the problem, like
Yeah.
finding somebody who can carry that role, and we already know he can do that.
Yeah, because like also Kenobi, I would hear a case for a second season if they would make sense, but it's probably just gonna be 1 season.
Sure.
I don't know how many, and like animated wise, you get Bad Batch, you get Rebels, but I don't know how many other projects they'd want to adapt or do in live action between 3 and 4, because I don't think there's many. They're really hot right now on exploring the 6 and 7 gap.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna do a 3 to 4 gap in a live action form that's not Clone Wars related, like, you have Han Solo right there.
I know, legit. Well, it's like they are going to be doing Andor, right, which takes place between that gap. But it seems as though like they chose to do that over this, right? Like in a way, they were like, "Oh, we could tell more about Cassian Andor.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have Alden Ehrenreich, who does a great job playing Han Solo, but we also have Cassian." You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I don't know.
I mean, I think with that, Andor is closer to 4, if I'm thinking of what they've said correctly, because
probably
of everything like that. So I think you have more of a limited time with Cassian to explore timeline wise. But
sure,
yeah, Han, man, it's basically Mandalorian with Han and Chewie. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that Christian and I are very much into this idea.
Yes.
Hashtag make Solo 2 happen. For sure.
Make Solo a series.
Both. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they wanted to make another movie, that'd be fine with me
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Speaking of TV shows, though, something that we're both super excited for, something that I thought would never happen in my life, the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show has added Maya Erskine in a supporting role. Also, the show is reported to be 6-hour-long episodes. Or 6-hour-long episodes. Sorry. So 6 episodes that are an hour long each. My bad. So this is coming from Deadline. They revealed that Maya Erskine, who I've never watched this show, is the star and co-creator of the Hulu original comedy Pen 15,
Mm-hmm.
which looks like penis, obviously, has been added to the cast of the upcoming series Obi-Wan Kenobi in a supporting role that will appear in at least 3 episodes. So that's kind of interesting. I don't really know. I'm not familiar with her work, but I just thought that was something to shout out, you know?
Yeah. Very cool. I've heard praise for Pen 15. I haven't watched it either. I have Hulu. I use it to watch Naruto. That is it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so it seems like a cool addition.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, in the same report, Deadline confirmed that the show is going to be 6 episodes that are an hour long each, which seems pretty reasonable, I think, for this type of show.
Yeah, and I'll say grain of salt is like Deadline is usually pretty spot on with anything they report, but I'll say hour long is like loose terms for a lot of TV. Like, I'm pretty sure Falcon and Winter Soldier was like each episode's an hour. We hit like 40 to 50 minutes a lot, you know, and hour long TV that aired on cable and is on Netflix is just 45 minutes because there's 15 minutes worth of commercials throughout that hour of broadcast. Like, I know it's different because it's streaming, but the lingo for TV is like, hey, an hour-long show is actually 45 to 50 minutes. So.
Right. I mean, I could see maybe like the last episode or like the penultimate episode being maybe like a bit longer, right? Like, I don't know. But yeah, an hour long, like you said, definitely is a loose term. I think probably around the 50 minutes each is what we're going to see for this.
Which, still great, but be prepared for that, because every week, Mike, I always see people, and Jack was getting pissy about this on Excelsior a couple weeks ago. It's like,
really,
7 minutes of credits. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of people that work on the show. Okay, like,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You always got to take into account. We talked about like the Mandalorian having we were sort of. I remember when the first season of The Mandalorian came out, every single week we were like, oh, it was this many minutes this time. And we were like, I wonder how many, like, I don't know. It's just kind of funny because this is such a new medium of TV and everything. Like you said, for, decades, it was just like, oh, you have an hour-long slot on cable and there's 15 minutes for commercials and stuff. But it's not the way that works anymore.
And the credits are on fast forward as, like, the next show is getting ready to go. Like, it's wild, but yeah, I think we were on the right track. I think we assumed Obi-Wan would be longer episodes because presumably it's a 1-season show, so they have as much time as they want. It's a streaming service. There's no other show that's about to premiere, so like they can make every episode 2 hours if they wanted to. But yeah, probably a 1-season show. Use all the time you can to tell your story. It makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a 1-season show. I think we had speculated that it's going to be like 4 to 6 episodes, and this is good. This is exactly what I thought it was going to be, and this is kind of exactly what I want. I kind of just want 1 season, 1 story. Tell your story and get out.
Now, Mike, I have a question for you because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Also. Is there any world where between now and this show coming out, we can try to get these damn episodes to premiere at like 8 p.m. on Fridays?
Yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous because they come out at like 2 a.m. on a Friday morning.
Yeah, for East Coast. Like, everybody on the West Coast watches it when I'm sleeping, and I wake up, and it's like, okay, well, I can't check Twitter for 2 hours because I gotta...
Legit, like when Falcon was coming out, I would just like wake up early on Fridays and just watch it because like I didn't want to get like spoiled anywhere. The same thing with WandaVision. I hope so, man. I don't want them to stop releasing them every week because I actually I like that. I know people were sort of upset with that and still are upset with that, but I actually like that. I think it's fun to sort of like have that conversation between episodes and stuff.
Mike, Netflix made these people entitled. It's a generation of people who grew up on Netflix. They're like week to week. Like I'm so with you though, because like something like WandaVision, having that conversation every week, especially with that mystery, that made the show so much better of a thing to enjoy, and it made like. I think I fell off TV. I used to really love TV when like Walking Dead was in its prime, Breaking Bad was going on, and it was like a ritual every week. It was like, okay, well, I know I have an hour to not worry about anything, just settle in, watch this with the rest of the world, and have a good time. And we got away from that. I bring this example up all the time on any time I talk about like with you or with Jack. Like, I really like Stranger Things. I can barely tell you what happens between all those seasons because it all blurs together because I just consume it in 2 days, right? Like, Mandalorian, right now, I could tell you probably every single episode, the main thing of that entire show, because it is that, hey, sit with this, talk about it, think of what's next. And it's just such a better way to consume TV. I'm so with you 100%.
I think you said that, it makes it, you said something about how it made a show for you better. And I'd have to absolutely agree with you with that, because thinking about just like in my youth and stuff, when I watched Game of Thrones in high school, it was like you said, a ritual. Like every Sunday at 9 p.m., like it seemed like the whole world would just sort of tune in together and then talk about it. I remember going on like Twitter and people were like live tweeting it as it came out and stuff. That's something we've definitely gotten away from, and something it definitely adds to the storytelling, because you sit with it and you have time to think about the themes and like what's going on, and it just makes things just more impactful and the story more impactful when it finally resolves. I think.
So the only problem I have with it as it stands, because I think we're close to get that again, right? We're very close to that experience of like the world is stopping for this, which I think only TV can do. Like movies can't do that. Games can't do that. TV can. We're very close to getting to those Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad levels again. But the problem is that people will live tweet it when they watch it. Because it's like whenever you watch it, they're going to live tweet it. Where like I genuinely, truly think, maybe not for every show, but for something like a Kenobi that is like a rematch of the century, right? Like that's the way they teed it up. The world will stop to watch Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi back on screen for one last ride. We will stop 6 weeks in a row for an hour. Anything we're doing, take that opportunity, please. Like honestly,
they really, seriously, like they could just easily be they could use this and just try something out, right? They could just. Like, they could just be like, all right, like, we're coming out with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, 6 episodes, every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, or something like that, right?
Maybe do 9 so, like, West Coast people can get home or something, but, like, absolutely.
Or, like, Sundays at 9, right? Like, I don't know. Like, and then just have it go live for everybody at that time, so everybody has a chance. Well, not everybody, but, more people have the chance to watch it, so it's not literally 3 o'clock in the morning, And I would assume that they would probably have bigger numbers of people watching at, like, one time. And I don't know if that's really what they're going for, but it would also just sort of turn itself into, like, this bigger event that would be good for Disney Plus, to be quite frank.
Honestly, because I do think there is a community aspect to TV, and we're not really there again. Like, when the Marvel shows come out or when Mando comes out, it's like, okay, over the course of the weekend, you talk to your friends, like, hey, did you watch it yet? Do you want to talk about this? Which is like, it's different of like we could be in a group chat for the Obi-Wan show, right? Just like text each other like, yo, Darth Vader's here.
True.
There is a layer to TV that I think maybe not every show, but something like a Kenobi show could absolutely benefit from that without question.
Definitely. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're on the same page with me. Like we're on the same page together on this, Christian, because like there's a special place in my heart for like all the times where, I sat down and it felt like I said before, the world stopped because like that new episode of Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad was on, and it seemed like everybody was watching. And the communal aspect of that is something I'm not sure if we're ever going to be able to replicate, but something that I have very fondly in my heart for sure.
100%.
Well, yes, it's the power of entertainment. It's the power of movies, Christian.
Oh, Star Wars, Mike.
It's the power of Star Wars. It's the power of the Force. Speaking of the Force, and speaking of fun entertainment, we have a new Lego set, Christian. and the Ultimate Collector Series R2-D2 is looking fine as hell. Did you see this?
I want this. So I did not see it until I opened up the doc he wrote up. But my God, I need this.
Yeah, he's like, I think he's like 2,500 pieces or something like that. He looks awesome. So much detail. I guess he has like a twistable head, and you can take him apart in some ways. And he has a lot of play, like a decent amount of play features for what seems like a collector's piece, right? I don't know. He just looks really cool, and it's a cool, sleek looking box, and I love it a lot.
Just about a foot tall as well. Love the detail on it as well, man. It just looks like a great looking R2 to put on a shelf.
Yeah.
Love this too. It comes with a little because these collector sets have little like museum panels that like give you a little blurb about something. But because this is a foot tall R2,
they kind of look like this.
Yes, exactly. Because this is like a 1 foot tall R2, not your typical R2 Lego that you've known and love from your entire life of being a Star Wars fan, but this one comes with the panel which you just showed to the camera, and in addition there's a little short stub that says like 50 years of Lucasfilm, right? On top of that stub there's a normal R2 figure from Lego, like a normal regular size, so for scale, real great. I love this thing, dude. I really want this.
They did a great job making the head like spherical with Legos. I love it.
Yeah. Looks like pre-orders come up, or maybe it comes out on May 1st, so I'm going to be looking around for price tags, I think.
Yeah, I would assume this is probably in the upper 100s, maybe like 200 range.
Yeah, because I know the helmets from this line at least go like 70 to 80. So.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know
Yeah,
how much
so I mean,
your
it's
ship was,
probably
but
mine was like 200, I think. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably like between 100 and 200 bucks.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool. I just think that Lego is doing some cool stuff with the Star Wars IP, and just love to see what's coming next. Can't wait for that video game, man.
Speaking of Mike, this is not on the doc, but I did see a rumor about this. A couple days ago, Twitter now has a Lego Star Wars video game hashtag that has a little emoji with it. You know how sometimes like
I saw this.
Topical things will add an emoji to a hashtag if like it's relevant to the time. People are assuming that maybe we're going to get an announcement soon, because it originally was, I think, supposed to come out sometime by the end of May, and then we got that other delay. So maybe not like a release within the next month or two, but maybe a big re-reveal, big gameplay showcase, big trailer, and a release date for real this time. So maybe soon.
I would hope so, because it's something that we desperately need. I think I can't remember the last time that we saw anything new from that game. It must have been like October, like September, October, or something like that.
Yeah.
And especially since that they recently pushed that game back, I think it would just be good marketing for them to get something out. And it would probably give us a better understanding about when that game is expected to come out. Hopefully sometime soon. But yeah. Speaking of video games, though, Christian, this is the last big news topic of the day, and it's going to sort of very nicely dovetail into the discussion topic that we have. So, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is being remade, reportedly. Studio, the Aspire, right?
Aspire. It's not Asper, it's Aspire.
So, IGN, this comes from an IGN article. A remake of the 2003 BioWare RPG Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is reportedly in the works at port studio Aspire Media. So the news was revealed by Jason Schreier, who's the Bloomberg reporter, during an interview with Ben Hansen of MinMax. He said, quote, okay, I don't know who that is,
dude,
but
quick aside,
yeah.
MinMax Show is one of my favorite podcasts. Ben Hansen is the best interviewer, podcast host that I listen to. He's incredible at his job. He's so good. He used to work for Game Informer. He branched out to do this with a couple other former Game Informer people. Excellent show. Highly recommended. Great host. I aspire to be him.
Very cool. Okay, so yeah, I'd have to check him out. but he definitely got the scoop on this one, Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, Jason Schreier was on his show, and Jason Schreier, for those who don't know, like honestly, like a hero, I think he's a great journalist. He does a lot to uncover the horrible work conditions of some like game studios and game developers. And I think that you said you inspired to be Ben Hansen. For part of me, Jason Schreier is like a hero of mine. Anyways, he said this is public at this point. I basically confirmed that Aspyr, which is the company that has ported a bunch of KOTOR games, is working on the remake. That's what Schreier said on MinMax. I guess Eurogamer backed that up, saying that it had also heard of Aspyr's involvement. And of course, Aspyr is most recently known for porting Star Wars Republic Commando onto the PS4 and Switch, something that I bought, and it's pretty great, honestly. So that is really interesting. We've been speculating, we've been talking about this. This is something that I've said that I've wanted. I'm really happy that finally there's going to be like a remake of Knights of the Old Republic.
Me too.
Reportedly.
Now, I don't know if this was in the article. I do think Schreier might have tweeted this after the fact, or after his interview. It sounds like combat is going to be more action combat. So, not really the semi-turn-based stuff from the OG KOTOR. More in line with something... Again, not the exact same thing because different studios, but more in line with a Fallen Order or Force Unleashed type combat than your standard KOTOR fare, which is action stops, choose your attacks, let it play out, and all that, which I liked. We'll talk about it later. I like that, but going action, I would not hate either, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that I had put on the doc. There is a YouTuber goes by the name Mr. Matty Plays. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He talks a lot about Fallout, and I've followed him for a while. I guess he had leaked the existence of this and its development studio Aspyr like months ago, according to GameRant.com. And he also said, that they're going to do away with that turn-based combat system. Now, for me, and we'll talk about this later, I actually really think that's like one of the stronger points of the game from a nostalgia point of view. I just think it's really unique, and they do it well, in my opinion. There are some things that are like kind of broken with it, though, which is sort of a shame. But I think that if they were to keep it, like I don't know why they wouldn't keep it and just like fix it. You know what I mean? It's not as flashy as the sort of action combat of a Fallen Order or a Force Unleashed.
Now, something I would love, and I think I talked about this last time we mentioned the remake, because I think the story popped up a couple weeks ago, maybe, as well. So Final Fantasy VII Remake is a remake of a game that has turn-based combat in the original that is similar turn-based combat to KOTOR, in that it's not full stop turn-based. It's like the action slows down, you have time. The remake of FF7 allowed you... They made it hack and slash, like Fallen Order, where you're mashing buttons to like slash with your sword, and as time goes on, as you're getting attacks in, it's building up a meter that allows you to slow down time and do your sort of turn-based elements. I think it's some of the best combat I've played in any game, like, period. But in the FF7 remake, there's a mode that allows the character to be auto-attacking to fill up those bars. So the only thing you as a player is doing in combat scenarios is waiting for the meter to build, the action freezes, then you choose your attacks. So like it is sort of replicating that turn-based thing. Obviously it can't work to one-to-one here, but if they are implementing more action combat, I don't know how difficult it would be to sort of add a layer in where there's a mode where the attacks are being done for you and you choose your force abilities or your saber throws or stuff like that, similar to FF7 Remake, which I think would probably make everybody happy. I think the people who really wanted turn-based for a KOTOR remake would be happy enough with that because you have the option, but obviously not exactly what the classic turn-based was in KOTOR, but I think if you are doing action combat, there's a way to find a happy medium that you can either ignore or fully go in on if you wanted that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that they would fully go in on it and not do it sort of like half baked. I would want them, if they're gonna completely change like one of the gameplay like mechanics, that they would make sure that their alternative was better. Uh, honestly, like I was thinking maybe they could like implement some sort of like VATS. Like you played
Yeah.
Fallout, right? Like, is that similar to what you were describing in terms of Final Fantasy and stuff like that?
Sure, but imagine when you go into VATS mode, like VATS is a meter you build up, and then you can use VATS, and
Okay.
then in VATS you can be like, I want to use a fire spell, or something like that. Or for this
Gotcha.
case, you go into the Force Star Wars version of VATS. Okay, I want to do a saber throw, like that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
So
Well, I mean, I would be fine with that. I mean, maybe it would be cool if you could like switch back and forth.
yeah,
Like, you know how in the old Halo Combat Evolved, they remastered that and they had like a form, like basically you could press a button, just like go back and forth between the versions.
cool.
They should do that with this. I don't know how reasonable that would be, if that would even work,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, because it does sound like this is more of a full-blown remake than what the Halo
Yeah.
one was or something. So it would probably be really difficult, because I bet you the game is significantly different. I bet, honestly, because I think you and I talked about this before too, I bet they retool a fair amount of story stuff to make it fit in canon now.
do you think they would do that?
Maybe not like heavy stuff. I bet the major plot points we'd still hit, but any redundancies that like would negate where we get to, like maybe we don't have hyperspace, but we have a different system because we kind of just discovered hyperspace in the High Republic, right? Like maybe something like that. Maybe like an assistant
Gotcha.
boost that's not hyperspace, but you just have really powerful jet fuel or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would rather them not do that. I would rather them just sort of keep it the way it is and just sort of remake it as it is, like not really mess with the story too much and just sort of make it look and play a lot better.
Yeah.
That's personally what I'm looking for.
And I'm not saying major rewrites. Like, I think the story stuff, the character stuff, you'd probably maintain all of that. I just mean, like, little bits of lore where it's like, if the Mandalorian Wars would negate something that Death Watch references, like, maybe strike that line, or just be like, maybe there wasn't a war, but there was, like, you know, a big conflict, a big fight. Like, stuff like that can just make it all fit well, because I think if they are doing this much work on an Old Republic project, I'd like it to be canon now, you know?
Right. I think I'm sort of questioning if it will be, though. That's what I'm saying. I'm sort of thinking that maybe they're just going to remake it and sort of treat it as it is and just sort of be like, yeah, it's its own different, separate thing.
Kinda
Like, you know what I mean?
Kind of like how they treat the MMO, you think?
Kind of, yeah. That's sort of how I was thinking they were going to do it.
Yeah, because to my knowledge, the MMO isn't officially fully, like, canon, you know?
No. It's not. So yeah, like that's sort of where I was gonna, because it seems like they're gonna remake it, so they're gonna keep most of the same sort of plot points and stuff, I would hope. So might as well just keep it the way it is and just be like, for people who are fans of this game, people who want to see what this game was like back in the day, like, but have it look nicer, like this is what it is, but don't confuse it with what we're doing with Disney and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, because I played it the first time earlier this year, and I'm trying to think, like, I don't think any of the major stuff, like major story beats, would
No,
counter
it doesn't. I mean,
everything, so
the only thing is the hyperspace thing, like you said.
yeah, which you could easily write something else in. Like, I don't think it would ruin the experience if they were like, hey, we like maybe do like mass relays where we have like jump points that just like launch us across space. Like, it's real reckless, but we can do it. Like,
Yeah, just add a voice line in or something like that.
It's like, hey,
Yeah,
only
I mean,
the most ballsy pilots will do this maneuver, like something like that.
I could see it, and I feel like if they're going to do something like that, I would want the changes to be minimal.
Yeah, and
personally.
I think they would, because again, most of the stuff from the main story, like, it's happened so long ago that the Starforge, you can, like...
Yeah.
The Starforge would not affect the Rise of Skywalker, because it's just so far behind, you know, like...
Yeah, definitely not. So I guess this is a good transition into just our Knights of the Old Republic conversation. I was thinking we should just start off with just our history of the game personally. You know, for me, this is a game that I had on the original Xbox. And I played it when I was a kid, and I finished it when I was a kid, very begrudgingly. It took a very long time because this game is hard. But yeah, and then I sort of just kind of put it away for a while. And I think last year I picked it up again, and I got really far into it, but for some reason it sort of fell off, and I never finished it. But I am, you know, it's a game that has a lot of, it holds a place in my heart for sure. I think it's a great story. I think it's one of the best Star Wars stories, to be honest with you. And I love Revan as a character, and I think the first time you play the game, spoilers, obviously, like, that twist is just so crazy. It's just a great game for me. It has a lot of nostalgia, I guess. Christian, what's your history with Knights of the Old Republic?
So I mentioned I played it for the first time this year. I've always been aware of KOTOR because, like, I've been a Star Wars fan since I could walk, probably. And I never had an Xbox. I was a PS2 GameCube house, so I never had access to this. I never really got into PC gaming. So KOTOR I always saw from a distance of, like, maybe I just never understood that it was only on Xbox. It was like, oh, weird, they don't have any stock on the PS2 on the GameStop website. But yeah, always been aware of it. Always been aware of the Old Republic. I own the Revan novel that was written by Drew Karpyshyn, and that was my first sort of foray into that story. Because, again, on the internet, I had the twist spoiled for me. I knew about Revan. I knew Revan's place of, like, amnesia, worked for the Sith, worked for the Jedi, back and forth, which I thought was like, okay, that's a new take on a character for Star Wars at the time. But yeah, I never really had a chance to play it until the last, like, few years, and I think I pushed it off for a long time because I feel like, and again, maybe this is a generalization, but it's a trend I noticed. A lot of the people that are, like, the real shitty Star Wars fans that will hate on any non-white dude fan of Star Wars for enjoying anything recent is like, the KOTOR is the good Star Wars. So it was like, there was an air around it that was always like, it felt a bit pretentious to me, and I was like, okay, I'm sure it's good. And obviously not all the fans of KOTOR are like that, but there was a Venn diagram, like, I can tell you.
There's some, like, hardcore unnecessary gatekeeping around this game for sure.
Yeah, which I don't understand at all. Like,
I don't get it. Yeah.
And when I did play the game, though, because gaming is, like, my main hobby, so I appreciate old games. I decided to play for the first time this year, streamed it, and I don't think it holds up in a lot of ways, but I was really impressed as a Star Wars fan playing this, of like, wow, they really did capture a lot of the vibes of Star Wars, and the stuff they're doing here with the Starforge is interesting. Love the crew dynamic, because I'm a big Mass Effect fan. BioWare made the first game, and I love the Mass Effect games. I played those, or 2 and 3 at least, when I was like 15 or something, so love that type of heavy story, lots of decision making, lots of dialogue choices, getting to know your crew. So seeing that, like, in its rudimentary form in KOTOR was something I thought was cool as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, to me, the whole choice aspect of this game, I think it's one of the most fleshed out aspects of Knights of the Old Republic, and it changes the story so in such profound ways. Like the choices that you make as you know, your character and everything. Like regarding, like, you know, you can make some pretty bad decisions, you can make some pretty good decisions, and it literally changes the ending. For me, like, as a kid, like, having that much autonomy and like where the video game goes and all that kind of stuff really set me, I think, and put a good idea in my mind about like what a video game should be. And I think that's why I was so into like Fallout and all those other like RPGs and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of like impact and stuff, I think, because I played it most recently like last year, probably around this time, and yeah, does it hold up in terms of like its graphics and stuff? I don't think so. Obviously, does it hold up in terms of, is this like a cohesive Star Wars story? Does it make sense within the larger universe? Like, absolutely. I think you said it well when you said that it captures the Star Wars vibes. I think, like, to me, when I think of Star Wars, this is sometimes what I think of, and like that's a pretty big honor to have, So I don't know. There's just a lot to say about this game, and there's a lot of good to it. I mean, there is also a lot of negatives in terms of just like how some of the mechanics work and how sometimes those mechanics like that just are broken. But overall, I think that they did a lot of interesting stuff with this game, and I love it.
Yeah, I think the main issue, like, I think some of the dialogue didn't love. Like, I don't know if it was like this for you, but just because I like doing character creators, I like making random people for games I play usually. I chose a woman smuggler as the main character, okay. And the first party member you get is Karth. And dude, I hated Karth because immediately dude was pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to flirt with me. I was like, fuck off, man. No, not interested. Okay. And he kept pushing and pushing. I was like, dude, I don't know about you. Like, it was rough.
Yeah. I've only played as male smugglers in this game, which may say more about me than it should. But like, yeah, I've never been hit on by Karth. I can see how that's annoying. I mean, he's like very emotionally reserved.
Dude, like that was one of the first things he said to me. Like, we walked out on oh god, I forget the name of the first planet, the pandemic planet.
Terrace.
Terrace, thank you. We walked out on Terrace out of the room, and like he stops me. One of the first things, like, "Hey, pretty lady, what are you doing later?" It's like, man, we have a mission. Like, come on.
Yeah, we gotta find Bastila, bro.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not interested as my option, and he's like, okay. You're hard to get, huh? And then I said like one more thing. He's like, sheesh, okay. It's like, man, no, I'm not about you. Not a fan.
See, I think, honestly, I think the dialogue's impressive, just the amount of choices that there are.
Sure, yeah.
And stuff like that.
I think maybe,
I do.
Yeah.
I do see what you say, that like maybe like I don't know. I just think that that's what gives the game a lot of character, right? Like, Karth like kind of is a jerk. And like, it's sort of like the meta conversation around him. Like, not a lot of people like him, but yeah. It's a video game. It's kind of interesting that sort of comes up.
Yeah, and I think the game came out when 2002, 3, something like that.
2003.
2003. Okay. Yeah. So like, obviously, times have changed, the way that they write characters and the way they treat even women in Star Wars. But like, that was something that out the gate I was like, okay, dude, you are not in the party for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Well, I was actually about to ask you, who did you main on your party?
So I used Mission a good amount for the first half, I think. Mission and Zalbar for sure for a while. And then it kind of turned into Bastila and Zalbar, I think, for the remainder.
Nice. That's good. I normally main with Bastila, because she's cool. I just think she's cool. Yeah. And honestly, I like Karth. I'd never played Hit as a woman, so I didn't know he was an abuser. So maybe Karth is canceled now. But I just kind of always thought that like he had an interesting depth to his character.
Yeah, because like the stuff with him being betrayed by his commanding officer and all that stuff, I was like, oh, okay, there's something here. But then right after that, he went off, and I was like, all right, sorry.
Yeah, he harassed you. Yeah, he's not in the party after that.
Oh, also,
Karth is canceled, everybody.
Honestly, like, I also I messed with Jolie a little bit because I wanted to have more Saber characters in certain areas that were pretty hard. Jolie I thought was whatever. HK I thought was introduced a bit too late in the game to be useful, but as a character I thought HK was really cool.
Yeah, he's also completely missable.
Really?
like you don't. I think so. I don't think you ever have to. You don't ever have to get him. I think he makes it easier if you want to get into the Tusken Raider village on Tatooine,
Oh yeah, that
but you
makes
don't have
sense.
to get him. Like,
Yeah,
I think a few of the companions are missable. Like, I'm pretty sure that droid is as well.
yeah. See,
Who's completely useless, by the way.
yeah, the droid I used, I think, to escape one of the places one time to like hack the terminals a little easier.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's interesting because again, my history with BioWare is mainly Mass Effect, and Mass Effect you can have missable party members, to my knowledge at least.
You can.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I only played Mass Effect 2 and most of 3. I never played 1 because it was a 360 only game for the longest time. But in 2 at least, I'm pretty sure there were characters you could miss. So going into this though, I'm pretty sure I got everybody for my playthrough. I didn't use really
Yeah.
everyone. Like the alien Jedi woman on Dantooine.
Oh, Zulani, right?
I think, yeah.
Or
She
something like that.
she got on the ship, never spoke to her really. Canderous, I talked to a couple times, never really used him.
He's a Mandalorian.
Yeah, interesting stuff with him.
Yeah.
So, what about you? What were your?
Uh,
I know you said Basil and Karth, but was there any other characters that stood out to you?
Well, I always thought Mission and Zalbar were an interesting sort of duo,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you. Um, Funnily enough, like I had seen this online, but did you know that you can like have Zalbar if you play like a really dark side character? Because did you play dark side or light side when you played?
I was light side. I made a
Yeah,
couple choices, I think, at times that were maybe on the line where I just like because I played
Yeah.
Revan as like actually I think I chose scoundrel, not smuggler, but I chose like I got a conscience. I'm doing good stuff. I was like maybe like riding the line of Ahsoka of like, hey, this is wrong, so I'm gonna act how I feel is right at times.
Right. Well, the game does a lot of interesting. It puts you in a lot of interesting predicaments. Like there's that whole trial with the cell calf. Do you remember that? Did you do that at all? And you have to like basically act as like an arbitrator in this like legit trial of this alien. It's like such a weird side quest, but it's so like interesting. But yeah, well, I was going back to Mission and Zalbar. If you play like a really evil Revan, eventually I think you go back to Dantooine, right? And you can get Zalbar like on your side by basically using the Wookiee. You know how like if you like save a Wookiee's life, it has to like hang around with you forever and like protect you, just like Han. Like he used that against Zalbar, and then like you can basically sick Zalbar on Mission, and it's like it's a really horrible thing, but like it just shows the range of like the choices that you can make in this game. Basically, like if you make those horrible choices, you could basically just like take this Wookiee away from her friend, and then like make him kill her. It's just very interesting and very dark, but just something that I wanted to bring up because, like I said, I think it shows the range of the choices that you can make, which is something that I really love about this game.
Sure. One of the things that I was hoping to see when I played through, again, coming from a Mass Effect background, Mass Effect 2 has these awesome things called loyalty missions where you can recruit somebody to join the crew. They'll hang out on your ship, and you can talk to them once in a while, when you're in between planets. And if you talk to them enough, they'll tell you about their story, right? And then they'll hint out this little thing that sounds like a side quest. And it's like, hey, if we're ever near this planet, maybe let me know and we can take care of something. And if you pursue the loyalty mission, you can like max out the bond between Shepard and the crew member. And in Mass Effect 2, that is essential for, I won't spoil Mass Effect 2, but that is like really important to do if you want to be successful in that game. So
Interesting.
Love that about that game. Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. So, again, knowing BioWare, going into this, seeing the crew, seeing the Ebon Hawk that they hung out on, made me think of the Normandy in Mass Effect. I was like, oh, okay. So I think when we first left, I went to talk to Mission, right? because I was really vibing with Mission early on, and she basically she started talking about like her brother on Tatooine and the Zerka Corporation and stuff like that, and he kind of disappeared. So I was like, okay, sounds like a side quest mission. Okay, I'll let you know when we're by Tatooine. So Mission was one of the few side quests for the characters I did, which I would equate to a loyalty mission. I don't think it affected my odds of any success in the game, but it did give me a better look into that character. I did the mission quest and I did the Bastila quest, and I think I did the Zalbar quest, and I think I did a good amount of the Jolie quest, then I abandoned it. But
Yeah, I think there is one. I think there is one that you can do in Korriban. I think, right, where you like there's like a kid or something, and you can like try. I forget, but there is like a character quest on Korriban. So I wanted to ask you just a little bit about like how the game is like laid out for you and everything. Like, how did you do the planets and everything? Because you start on Terrace and you have to find Bastila. Then you get access to the Ebon Hawk, and basically you can do any of the planets in any order. And there are a few planets, right? So Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Korriban. Yes, they call it Kashyyyk in the game for some reason. Korriban, and then the Selkath planet. I forget what that's called. I think it's just Selkath, right? Oh, Manan, right? The Selkath live on Manan, right?
Yes. So,
anyways,
what
I don't know.
I think I did Kashyyyk first. I think
Okay.
I went to Tatooine immediately because of Mission, and then the chat was like, you might have an easier time doing Kashyyyk first, because I guess like the difficulty of the location. I was like, okay, I'll trust you. So I think I did Kashyyyk, Manan, or no, wait, Dantooine. Whenever Dantooine comes in at a certain time, right? Like you have to do that at a specific time.
Right. Actually, I think Dantooine's like before all the other stuff.
Okay.
You have to go to Dantooine before like the rest of the world is opened up to you.
Yeah. So I think I did Kashyyyk, Manan, Tatooine, Korriban, I think. And then the
what was your
stuff and everything. But...
Yeah. Then you get like put on that other planet. But what was your favorite of all the planets?
Ooh, I can tell you my least favorite for sure was Manan.
Yeah.
I hated that planet so much. It took me so long. I was not
That
happy.
planet does suck. Like, it's not even really that fun. The underwater stuff is like weird.
Yeah, and like the suit underwater was just super slow, and the it just took like I think I did kind of get sidetracked there because Jolie gets stopped. I think he was in the party with me because I was like, I need Saber characters right now because stuff's getting hard.
Oh, and he gets stopped by the woman, right?
Yeah, and she's like, oh, you know my husband, it's your duty to save him because he's wrongfully misguided. And I was like, I don't know what this is. It feels like it might be story. So then I got sidetracked on that shit, and then it's like, okay, well, now I have to go to the Sith base and infiltrate the Sith base for some reason, which was super hard.
Yeah.
And, I do think the interesting thing with Manan, though, is that they're neutral, and there's an embassy for the Republic and the Sith there.
Yep.
I think that's an interesting thing, where it's a neutral planet, and you can see how each side is kind of playing them. That was cool. Everything else there sucked, so I did not like Manan.
Yeah, Manan's definitely my least favorite planet. I do think Kashyyyk is like not one of my favorites either. Korriban, I think, is probably my favorite, for sure. I just think it's the most interesting with all the different tombs that you have to go through. They're like different puzzles. Reminds me of like I don't know what it reminds me of, but yeah. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, I think Kashyyyk was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. You know, there were definitely a couple of frustration points there. Tatooine, I think
the story on Kashyyyk, I think, is the strongest.
Yeah, because I did do the optional thing for Zalbar there, where I got the sword and and confronted his brother and all that. So that was cool. I think I'd put Tatooine on the same level as Kashyyyk, of like, it's inoffensive, it's cool because I'm a Star Wars fan, seeing this place. But Korriban,
kill the Krayt Dragon.
Kill the Krayt Dragon, yeah, that was fun. Korriban, though, for sure, I think was the most interesting way to frame a planet, where it's like what you actually have to do there, because Manon, Kashyyyk, Tatooine, it was like, find this person, find the star map, go get it, kill some things. But Korriban was like, no, you have challenges. And for me, playing as a Jedi, you know, light side player mostly, having to like go undercover at the Sith Academy was kind of fun. And trying to learn all their stuff and try to find out like what the right answers would be. Everything was a test when I was being spoken to. Like, that was really cool. I liked that.
Yeah. I do think one of the things that sort of took me out of it in my last playthrough was like halfway through the game, you get like captured by the Sith and you have to like escape that ship.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? That came out of like left field for me because I didn't remember that from like when I was a kid. So like last year when I was playing it, I was like, "What is this?" But that's like a pretty interesting wrench that the developers kind of just like threw in there.
Mike, you want to know something hilarious?
Yeah.
So in this part, right, I think I'm with you where it kind of threw me for a loop of like, I think I was playing for like 7 or 8 weeks at this point, so I really wanted to see the end of the game, and then that came up, and I was like, oh god, okay.
Yeah.
But 7 or 8 weeks of constantly hating on Karth, right? I literally, I do not like this man. And the way it's set up, right, we get taken hostage, and you have to choose somebody in the party to like go save everybody. I chose Jolie. I was like, he can do some Jedi mind tricks. He's gonna be good. So we get captured by Karth's like old CO or something, right? And Malik's on his way. And so Revan, Bastila, and Karth are all in a torture chamber. And then this guy keeps like trying to get me to talk. And he's like, he zaps Karth. I was laughing the whole time. And he was like, talk or I'll do it again. I was like, I'm not talking. Like, do it. Go ahead. Keep shocking Karth. I was having a field day with that sequence. That was so much fun.
Yeah, screw you, Karth.
Honestly, yeah. Like, I think there was an option where he was like, don't you care? He'll die. And I was like, I don't care about that guy. I think that was an option. I was like, go ahead. I don't care about him. I think I selected that option. That was fun.
Wow, Revan really showing his true colors in Christian's playthrough.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I remember just that kind of threw me for a loop, and that like secret planet too, like that you kind of just crash land on.
Yeah.
Sort of.
The secret planet was really hard, I think.
It's really hard and also annoying, I think. Sort of annoying because you think that you're about to like get to the last part of the game. And it's like, no, you just got to do a whole new world that you didn't even know about.
Which, like, I think I was prepared for, because I looked up how many planets there were ahead of time just to like try and pace myself. So I knew we were gonna get on a ship, the Leviathan, and I knew we were gonna get a bonus planet. But still, like, the stuff with the that like ancient race of aliens that were living there.
They created like the star maps and stuff.
Yeah, it was, again, I think like a lot of the game, it was interesting, but in having to play through it, I felt it was kind of tedious and wasn't having a good time really, because the challenge and everything and the way everything was laid out, and those Rancors there hit hard. Like,
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it reminds me of what's the race of aliens in Fallen Order that like you have to learn about and stuff.
The Zepho.
Yeah, doesn't it kind of remind you of that?
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. That's just something that came in my head.
Yeah, they and then there was like the one that was more the sect of them. They were like split up. There was one that was more tribal, and there was one that was more studious. You had to side with that. Like,
yeah.
It was fine. Again, conceptually cool. It's cool there's a Star Wars thing that's like this, but playing through that, I think I was really like, I just want to see the end of the game right now, and this is keeping me from that.
Well, I mean, right after that, you pretty much get to go to the end of the game. You figure out where the Star Forge is, and the Republic kind of makes an attack on it. And that's where all of your decisions sort of come to a head.
Yeah. What do you think of making your way through the base with all the Dark Jedi and stuff like that?
Hard.
Yeah.
but also long too, from what I remember.
Yeah, dude. 'Cause sometimes they'll just respawn for like
Yeah.
a few rounds, and I was like tapped at that point. Like I died a lot there, and I had to reset a ton of progress.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it would sort of trap you in a room. You had to like do a few things as they kept responding, right? Like, yeah. So it was tedious for sure. But you eventually sort of make your way and you find Malik.
Well, you gotta
And
find
I think that
first, right?
Oh, right. You find Basil first.
Yeah. So.
But you played it more recently, so
Yeah, what do you think of the Bastila turn to the dark? Because that was one of my biggest things where I'm like, I do not buy this. I really like. I get she has some hesitation, but enough to like do a full blown turn. I did not buy that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I've talked about this before. Like that is sort of something that happens in the game that sort of rewards the player if they were taking advantage of like talking to the crew and stuff like that. If you spend a lot of time with Baxila and like she's in your party, like you spend some time and you talk with her and stuff, I think that her turn makes a bit more sense because like she has a lot of hesitations about like what they're doing, and like she, once it's revealed that you're a Revan, she starts to have more. Well, doesn't she leave or something at some point? I forget.
She gets captured at one point. I think she stays behind on the Leviathan to let us all escape. But yeah, like I did her side quest, right? I saw the thing with her mother on Tatooine, like dealing with her and her dad and all that stuff, and really having a lot of resentment towards her mom, right? Like I saw all of that stuff, but still I don't know if it's enough for me to like believe that she would do that drastic a turn when specifically me as Revan, I know that would maybe give her some doubts, but like she knew the whole time I was Revan, and I was being pretty good, and I was helping her out a lot, so like it felt like a bit of a jump, which I can understand how we got there. I just don't know if I was fully on board for it, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in retrospect, I don't think I was as much either. I mean, as a kid playing this game, you're like, oh no! Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but like, thinking about it a little bit more critically, I think you're right. It doesn't really make that much sense. But like I said, the game's so large, and so you could do anything really that you could sort of just turn her right back to the light side.
Yeah, which again I think could be bolstered in a remake. I think they can make that fall a lot more believable and probably hit harder, right, with the way it's written.
Sure. So that's the type of stuff that you'd be looking for, I guess.
Yeah.
In terms of,
maybe the changes that we have to fix to make it fit in canon, but also on a writing level, maybe not use the exact same script. Like, I think you could rewrite a decent amount of the dialogue to make it feel a bit more grand. Revan isn't...
Strong areas.
Yeah, Revan isn't voiced. I feel like you could do that, maybe. Like, again, Mass Effect style, have a male Revan, a female Revan voice, so you could just play it and get more immersed in this character. But, yeah, I'm glad I was able to turn her back, and I thought it was a cool... It was, very, very hard, but having those breaks in between the boss fight with Bastila where you could talk to her and try and, like, convince her to come back, very cool. Interesting way to frame that, because, again, Star Wars, it's very Shakespearean, the originals, where it's like, oh, Luke's fighting Vader and he's trying to turn him and all that stuff. So that was cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, you're like, wow, this seems a little dramatic, huh? And then you're like, oh, yeah, well, Star Wars is just really dramatic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember being able to turn her back to the light side. At that point, you go and you confront Malik, right? I forgot that you had to confront Basil first.
Yes, I think you can't bring her with you after that. She still's like, I gotta stay behind, but, yeah. Oh, I think this is actually where I used Juhani. Because I needed all the sabers I could get for this final area, so like I used her and Jolie. But
yeah, see, I don't think you can bring any crew members with you into the final boss battle, though.
Yeah, I meant the base, the Starforge.
Gotcha.
Itself, so.
The Starforge, yeah. So you confront Malik, and from what I remember, he tries to like take like soul energy from like these guys that he's experimenting on.
Yeah,
it's very strange. um, but yeah, so you have the final confrontation with him, and I think no matter how you slice it, Malik dies, and you either take his mantle or you get a victory for the Republic.
Yeah, which kind of bad beat for me. I played the Steam version. Something I tried every which way I could do to fix this, but every time I went into that room, it fast forwarded through all of his stuff. I did not get to hear his grand speech. I looked it up after the fact, but I couldn't like make the choices there.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, so that was a bummer, but I still, I was able to choose my ending still, but just a bit of a glitch. But yeah, interesting boss fight. Combat again skewed a bit, where I just created enough distance, kept doing saber throws. He could not touch me, so like,
yeah, you find out how to cheat.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But what do you think of the ending?
But I mean, I thought it was a good ending. I mean, overall, I think the story is really solid. Yeah. Like, I think from start to finish, it's a great Star Wars story. It's very epic and, classic Star Wars fashion. And, like, the ending is pretty solid. Like I said, I've only played through the light side, so I am familiar with that, though I have watched the dark side ending. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I just think overall there's a lot of nostalgia factor for me with this game, but it tells a really interesting and unique Star Wars story, because I think Revan is just a very cool character, and you kind of go on that journey with him as the player of him, as he learns about himself.
Yeah, and I think that's my biggest thing about an adaptation, right? Where Revan, I think, is how you play them, right? Because Revan can be a man, Revan can be a woman, Revan can be good, bad, scoundrel, white knight, could refuse to pick up a lightsaber if you want to, right? Like,
yeah,
there's so many avenues where I genuinely think the common fan one, like, it's a self-insert, so a lot of people see what they want to see in Revan, and I think the typical approach, maybe because of, again, what I said before, that vocal group about this game, sees themselves as Keanu Reeves. They want to live that power fantasy of some guy vaguely can look enough like them experiencing this story, where an adaptation, I think, you would not be able to get close to that level of freedom or choice or pleasing the audience, where I think for Revan they should, everyone can play Revan the way they want to play Revan. So for whoever's writing the adaptation, do it against the grain, because if you try to go with the grain, you're going to get criticism no matter what. So at least do something interesting with Revan, where it's not standard looking dude does a thing and goes through the reverse turn. I think you can add a lot of depth to Revan through a film or TV adaptation that probably isn't the way people, maybe the largest community of people who played the game would do it, but I think would make it interesting above just Amnesia character.
Right. I think regardless, if they tried to adapt Revan, it would be difficult, and not everybody would like it because of the fact that he is a self-insert character, right? He's like a stand-in for every Star Wars fan, essentially.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really have one specific identity. I mean, he's got a canon story,
right?
But Revan could be anybody. Mm-hmm. So in that way, it's sort of hard to make an adaptation of Revan.
Yeah.
You'd have to, because you're gonna have to settle on one version of Revan, while there are thousands, countless. So, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just think if they were to remake this game, which, as we discussed earlier in the episode, looks like that's the case, I think you've sort of turned me Christian. There are some things that Aspire Media can do to make this game stronger. And if that means that they sort of strike some lines here and there, add some more dialogue, I think that would be a good thing for this game.
Because the original always still exists,
Yep.
And you are correct where, there's a Revan novel. I own it downstairs. he's a guy in that book that probably looks like Keanu Reeves, like right, like
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, as someone who came into this series when I'm I'm 24 now, like I played it earlier this year. Revan feels like someone that could benefit from in an adaptation, a new take. I think in the video game remake, absolutely treat Revan the same way of like, maybe you can add a voice for the male or female option, but definitely play how you want to play Revan for sure in the remake. I'm talking more movie and TV show.
Yeah.
Maybe make Revan not what people want to see on the surface, but keep the story, but
subvert expectations. Take a page from Ryan Johnson's book.
Yeah, honestly, but the one other thing I want to say, I know we touched on it briefly, was the combat system. I think again it surprised me at how much it basically is turn-based. Chat gave me the tip of like, hey, melee in this game is super OP. So
that's what I meant by broken, by the way.
yeah. And even then, though, like there were instances where it was so hard against me, where like I had to like save scum, like. So I definitely think the balance of the enemies and your power kind of breaks the game in certain places and makes it really frustrating. But again, a remake could fix that very easily.
I mean, 3 years ago, I tried to play this game, and I sort of got stuck. I got stuck on the first world that I went to. I had spent like a lot of time in the game. Like I was like, this is going to be like a good playthrough. Like I'm going to try to take my time with it. And then I kind of got stuck on Tatooine. I killed the crate dragon, and Kalo Nord came up with his boys and tried to kill me. And literally save after save, like I reverted to like last save so many times. Like I went back a few saves to like buy more stuff, and like I couldn't kill him. Like I just couldn't do it because it was just like so broken. I had to literally start over. It took a lot. It took a lot. Like, and I didn't even start over until like 2 years later. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a crazy game. It takes a lot of patience for sure.
And maybe it's because I was streaming it partly as well, but like there were elements of those gameplay sections where it was just so frustrating and put a sour taste in my mouth. And like I really enjoyed the story stuff, but at times like big long section of reloading save down to the wire, using a med pack, using a stim, trying to get everybody to heal, where like I was just so over it, where I was like, what choice you want me to make? Sure, here. Like which again,
no, it's so frustrating.
It definitely hurt my enjoyment of the game in a fair number of places, but with some time away from it, I do think it's a really good game, and could absolutely use a remake. And I'll play the hell out of that remake. And I think I gave it like an 8, I think, when I beat it. And I think I'd probably stand by that. Maybe on a bad day, a 7.5 if I'm really thinking about that combat and all the times I got frustrated. But it's good. It's a good game, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I said before, there's a nostalgia factor to this game. I think if I were to rate it, it'd be like a 9 out of 10.
Sure.
It definitely is weak in some areas. It has some moments of sheer frustration. It causes some moments of sheer frustration, rather. But overall, I think it's one of the more solid Star Wars stories through and through. It's so vast and so wide and so many. It's just so big, and I love it for that. So that's where I stand on it. Great game.
Like, there's so much I didn't even do. Like Pazak.
Yeah.
I didn't mess with Pazak much. It's basically blackjack, but Pazak was really interesting. There's like that bounty hunter arena you can do on Terrace for the Z Hut. What's his name? Zed? Something like that.
Oh yeah, I forget what his name is, to be honest. Deadeye Duncan.
Yeah. And then, like, as I was leaving Tatooine, right, somebody rolled up, because I think Tatooine was one of the last planets I did. And maybe Tatooine was last. I forget if I did Korriban or Tatooine last. But I was leaving, and I was, like, you know, getting ready for the end of the game, and somebody stopped me, and they were like, hey, are you this person? And originally I said no, because I was like, I don't want to deal with another side quest. And then I was like, okay, wait, I'll reload, because that could have been cool, just to see what it was. And they said, hey, do you know this person? Are you this person? Here's this card. Come to Manon. And then that unlocks, like, a secret bounty hunter ring or something that you can join. I completely avoided that and missed that because it was just the end of the game and I wanted to see the story through. But, like, there's so much that I'm sure I missed in this game, too, where, like, there is a lot, like you're saying.
Did you ever get reproached by that guy, I think on Korriban, who was like, oh, bring this package to Tatooine, but don't open it? Did you do that quest?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there's like this guy that you can meet on Korriban. He's like, do you want to get paid to bring this package to Tatooine? And you're like, yeah, obviously, sure. He's like, yeah, just make sure that you don't open it. Like, whatever you do, don't do it. And basically, like, you could just play the quests as going to Tatooine, dropping off the package, never looking at it, and then just, like, getting the XP and getting the money and just walking away. But if you open the thing, you get transported into, like, this, like, world between worlds where you're, like, are trapped in, like, this soul prison, essentially, and you have to, like, answer a bunch of riddles to get out.
God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just super weird, and, like, it's completely missable,
Yeah.
you know? Like, you don't even ever have to do it. It's just like I said, just sort of lends itself to the large scale of this game.
Yeah, and you just reminded me also, there was I kind of hate this, but I also love it. There was, I don't know if this is optional or not, so tell me if you experienced this, but sort of late game, I forget if it was like Canderous, he said there was like a noise or something he heard. And then you go into the ship, and there's a stowaway, and it's this, like, young girl, but she doesn't speak basic, so, like, you have to be, like, going through all these dialogue choices and judging her emotional, like, the tone of her voice, not what she's actually saying, and try and actively translate everything. And if you go down a certain, like, discussion path, she'll, like, clam up and stop talking. So you gotta, like, rerun, remember what you said to her before, continue to try and find the right, like, path of, like, talking to her to try and translate what's up. And like, the game, like, puts it on you to, like, remember phrases that she says in whatever language she's speaking, and try and piece those together to see what she's trying to tell. Like, again, kind of stupid, but I really kind of loved it. Like, just actively translating this alien language from this snotty kid. That was, like, really interesting.
For sure. One thing about the alien languages, though, oh my god, they must have had like 5 voice lines that they just like, like, that's one thing the remake should do better. It's just, Muka Shaka Paka.
Yeah, the guy that's like, Hachi.
yeah. No, the Rhodians like have their own like sort of like weird accent. I don't know, but that's one thing I hope the remake changes. Just add more alien dialogue.
I'm sure
voice line.
Yeah, we're gonna get a McClunky.
McClunky. Yeah, definitely. Well, is there anything else you want to say about this game? I feel like I talked my head off about it.
I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
As a veteran, because I'll give my answer after you. As a veteran, do you think somebody who's interested in KOTOR, who hasn't played it, maybe they know some of the twists or whatever, but maybe they're a fan of games or a fan of Star Wars, always avoided KOTOR for some reason. Do you think that they should play the game right now as it is, or wait for the remake?
I say wait for the remake.
I agree.
I mean, I think Knights of the Republic takes a certain sort of like I don't know. It takes a certain sort of grit to get through, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not like completely committed to the cause, you're never gonna get through it, because it's just so long and like so big and it takes forever. But it's so rewarding if you do. The thing is like if there's going to be a remake, which is undoubtedly going to just be better pace, like it's just going to be a better experience to play. I would just wait for that, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll second that as somebody who, again, games is my main hobby. I play a lot of games. I play a lot of old games. I can recognize when an old game holds up or if frustration's worth it. Like, I played Chrono Trigger recently. That's from 96. That's an RPG also. Loved that to death. Flawless game. This, like, if I wasn't streaming it, I think I probably would have fell off because it's just so punishing. And not even in, like, a fun Dark Souls way. Like, in, like, a, hey, this didn't age super well. And I don't have a big history with PC games either. This is straight up a PC game. Like, I can't imagine playing this on a controller. I know you did, but I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I mean, playing it on a controller is honestly not as bad as you think.
Okay.
I just, it's just like, there are many times during like one playthrough where you're literally like, I've rage quit before, like where you're gonna want to like throw your controller through the TV, honestly, or punch your monitor because it just does not make any sense. Sometimes the game just like glitches out. Sometimes like it literally is impossible to kill an enemy and you have to revert back. Like it's very frustrating. And like I said before, I think grit is the word to use to describe like what you need to have to get through it. And if you don't have that, you're probably not going to get through it. So it's most likely just better to wait until that there's a more playable version of the game out.
Yeah, and I would say this too: if you don't want to force yourself to do that, that is completely fine. Because listen, I drop games like hot rocks at times. You know, like I will walk away from something, no question. But
it's not for everybody.
Yeah, I do think like what we've been talking about, a remake. It's a really good story. It really is. It's really interesting. It's really fun.
I think it's worth it personally, but you know, it's probably not worth it for everybody.
Yeah. I think there's so many things you have to ask yourself going into a KOTOR playthrough for the first time, where odds are there will be a holdup for you, where a remake it's going to frame the story in a better way probably. It's going to be much more modern. Gameplay is going to be probably pretty different. So I would wait as well, I think, as someone who just played it for the first time.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan and you're willing to put up with it, like I said, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, that's the way to phrase it. Put up with it for sure.
yeah, you have to put up with it. Yeah, it's like, it has a mind of its own.
Definitely. But
next, we got to play KOTOR 2, Christian.
Yeah, talk to me in a year. I'm not ready for it yet.
I'm just joking.
Yeah. But before we sign off, have you played 2?
I've never played 2. No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, I've never really had the urge, but maybe one of these days.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Great game though. Knights of the Old Republic, I'd say probably 9 out of 10. I know you said 8 out of 10. I'd say 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 7.5 to 8, I think, for me. But
okay. All right. Fair enough.
Maybe we see the remake this year. Maybe we see a trailer this year. You know, don't know how long it's been in development, but this could be a really cool like E3 or December Game Awards reveal trailer, like coming sometime late 22 or early 23 or something. That'd be fun.
Honestly, like I mean, like they don't really release the like, you know how they don't really release the ports to much fanfare. Star Wars Republic Commando kind of just like came out of nowhere, so we definitely get more for this. But yeah, I'm excited for whenever this happens.
Oh yeah, so great conversation.
Well, Christian, what? Yeah, man, I had a good time. Why don't you take us on out to sea?
Sure. Well, Mike, where can everybody find you?
On Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks under the Jedi Knights playlist for the video version, alongside all of our other podcasts like Excelsior, Joyclicks Gamescast, and all the others. And if you want the audio version, you can check that out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your audio service of choice. If you can rate or review on that platform, though, would be greatly appreciated, because a 5-star review is a quick tap, takes a second, helps us out a ton. If you want to help us out further, though, patreon.com/joyclicks, the $1 and $5 tiers, $5 tier gets you producer credit on all of our podcasts, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. And that is going to do it for this episode of Jedi Knights. Next week, May 4th, will happen. We're recording on May 4th, so we're going to try to get all the news we can in that episode.
Yeah.
And Bad Batch is dropping.
I think we're going to be recording a bit later in the day just to make sure that we get all the news that we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So look out for that for sure.
Yes. So we'll try to recover everything we can for May the 4th. Again, Bad Batch dropping next week. 2 episodes next week. Next episode of Jedi Knights, we'll just have the premiere discussion, but going to be a beefy one, so stay tuned. But
yes.
Until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.